Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. When you look up at the night sky, it is incredibly easy to see the moon as just this quiet, pale, lifeless stone, just quietly keeping Earth company. It looks serene, it looks completely static. But today, we are going to absolutely shatter that illusion. So, what if literally everything you thought you knew about that glowing orb was just wrong? Let's jump right into this by completely confronting our assumptions. We're going to explore the hidden extremes, the surprisingly active geology, and the genuinely bizarre human history of the only other celestial body we've ever actually set foot on. Right off the bat, let's talk about the dark side of the moon. We've all heard the phrase, it is deeply ingrained in pop culture. But let's bust that myth right now using some basic physics. A lot of folks out there think there's this side of the moon that permanently lives in pitch black, freezing shadow, just completely cut off from the sun. Well, here's the reality. The sun actually lights up all sides of the moon exactly like it does the Earth. But there's a catch. The moon is what we call tidally locked to our planet, meaning it rotates on its own axis at the exact same rate that it orbits around us. Because of this perfectly synchronized dance, we only ever see one face. The so-called dark side gets plenty of sunlight. It's just forever hidden from our vantage point down here. Section 1. A hostile, deadly environment. Okay, just take the temperature swings up there for a second. At the lunar equator, it can rise to a boiling 260 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, and then completely plummet to minus 280 degrees at night. But the real shocker? During a lunar eclipse, when the Earth casts its shadow on the moon, the surface temperature can violently plummet by a massive 500 degrees Fahrenheit in just 90 minutes. I mean, we never experience anything even remotely close to that rapid, drastic drop here on Earth. And this lack of atmosphere is exactly why simply standing on the moon looks so incredibly alien to us. On Earth, our atmosphere scatters sunlight, which softens shadows and gives us that bright blue sky. But the moon, it's a vacuum. There's literally no atmosphere to scatter the light. Because of this, the light hits the surface purely, and the shadows created aren't just dark, they are absolute, bottomless, pitch black voids. Actually, even the ground itself is actively trying to hurt you. On Earth, our dirt and sand are eroded and softened by wind and water over millions of years. But moon dust has never been softened. It is entirely composed of incredibly fine, razor-sharp particles. During the Apollo missions, these particles literally tore right into the astronauts' boots and scratched up their visors. Apollo astronaut Harrison Schmitt even inhaled some of this stuff inside the spacecraft and suffered from what he called lunar hay fever. And worse, later studies revealed this lethal dust is actually sharp enough to kill lung and brain cells. And because this total lack of atmosphere leaves elements on the surface entirely exposed to cosmic rays and solar wind, it actually fundamentally alters the chemistry of elements like iron and titanium. When astronauts brought lunar samples back into the pressurized, oxygen-rich cabins of their spacecraft, these elements rapidly oxidized. The result? Get this. The moon actually has a smell. Astronauts reported that the lunar dirt distinctly smells like burnt gunpowder. Section 2. A dynamic, shifting world. So you definitely can't feel it from your backyard, but the moon is currently trying to escape us. The moon's gravity pulls on the Earth, which slows our rotation down just a tiny bit. And in return, the Earth's counter-effect pushes the moon's orbit slightly wider. Because of these opposing gravitational forces, the moon drifts about 4 centimeters further away from Earth every single year. Right now, no big deal, but way down the line, this drift could seriously disrupt our ocean tides and currents. But hey, we are fighting back, at least gravitationally speaking. It's pretty ironic that our own planet's gravity is actually causing continuous seismic quakes on the lunar surface. These moonquakes might generally be weaker than a typical earthquake down here, but without the dampening effect of liquid water inside the moon, they ring like a giant bell. A single moonquake can violently shake the surface for over half an hour straight. Now, here is something truly unexpected. There's actually a complete, active water cycle happening right now on the moon. We've known for a bit that there is frozen ice hiding in the dark craters of the lunar poles, but recent observations have shown that as the surface warms during the day, some of this ice sublimates, meaning it turns directly into a gas and rises up into the moon's incredibly thin exosphere. It then travels across the surface until it hits a cold patch, where it falls right back down and refreezes into ice. It's basically this harsh, alien version of our own water cycle. Section 3. Humanity's bizarre lunar footprint. When you think about these sheer volume of wild items we've left behind up there, it's kind of crazy. When Apollo 11 was prepping to return home, every single ounce mattered, so Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin literally had to toss out their trash to save weight. Today, the moon is honestly a partial junkyard, featuring abandoned lunar rovers, dead probes, an American flag, and scientific gear like a retroreflector. But it is also a literal burial site. Back in 1999, a NASA probe was deliberately crashed into the lunar surface, carrying the ashes of the legendary geologist and astronomer Dr. Eugene Shoemaker. But our wildest footprint might actually be the one we didn't make. Picture this. It's the peak of the intense, hyper-paranoid Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. In the late 1950s, the US government literally drew up plans to nuke the moon. Yeah, seriously. It was called Project A119. Feeling like they were losing the space race to the Soviets, US officials seriously considered detonating a nuclear weapon right on the lunar surface. The goal? Simply a massive, undeniable show of force. An explosion so incredibly big, it could be seen from Earth with the naked eye, proving American dominance. Thankfully, someone realized that was maybe a terrible idea, and it stayed just a thought experiment. Section 4. The Moon's Hidden Riches. If we rewind the clock a few billion years, the moon was actually a violently active volcanic world. Around 4.5 billion years ago, massive impacts completely melted its interior. Lava flowed across the surface, creating those giant dark patches we still see today, stretching for thousands of kilometers. While most of this major volcanic activity chilled out about 3.5 billion years ago, traces of volcanic gas emissions suggest the moon wasn't completely quiet until just about 1.2 billion years ago. And those massive, ancient lava flows actually left something incredibly valuable behind for us. As underground rivers of magma eventually emptied out, they left behind massive hollow lava tubes. Sometimes, the roofs of these tubes collapse, creating what we call lunar pits. These giant underground caverns could honestly become the perfect, pre-built, natural shelters for our future lunar colonies. Down in those tubes, astronauts would be completely protected from that razor-sharp dust, the brutal cosmic radiation, and those insane 500-degree temperature swings. Now, this final discovery, it could absolutely change human history. Because the moon has no magnetic field or atmosphere to deflect it, the surface has been relentlessly bombarded by solar winds for billions of years. And this solar wind has deposited an incredibly rare isotope called helium-3 straight into the lunar soil. Helium-3 is basically the holy grail of clean energy. It's a highly sought-after fuel for nuclear fusion that does not produce hazardous radioactive waste. And get this, it's estimated that there are over 1.1 million tons of it just sitting right there on the lunar surface. That is enough to power the Earth for centuries. So it's pretty clear that the moon is definitely not some dead, boring rock. It is a dynamic, shifting, intensely hostile, and incredibly valuable world. It smells like gunpowder, it quakes from our gravity, and it literally holds the potential to power our entire future. So the next time you look up at the night sky, we really have to ask ourselves, when humanity finally returns to claim those hidden riches and build our very first extraterrestrial colonies, what kind of legacy are we going to choose to leave next?